With a news signing and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. In a clip from C2E2, former AEW World Champion MJF, who has been out of action since the end of last year, could be seen making fun of Brock Lesnar and his involvement in the sex trafficking lawsuit against WWE and Vince McMahon.
I'm ready.
Hey, this is MJF. I'm here with Piss Fetish Guy, and we are so excited to see you today.
You ain't gonna say anything?
Yeah. What else is there to say?
I gotta find a new name, so that was the suggestion.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mentioning his tendency to push boundaries for his raps on AEW programming, Max Caster had this to say on Isaiah Cassidy's YouTube channel. I think it's important to do that. A lot of wrestling is based on, can I get people to like me? If you try too hard and you go out there and you say, please love me, it's cool, it's okay. We can try all the tricks, and here's a pyro, or here's some new gear, a flashy look, new song. But I feel like the best artists are the ones who will say something and stand by it. So I'm talking Kanye, Dave Chappelle. These are the guys that are the top of their game. So I take a lot of inspiration from that. What I do, a lot of it is kind of stand-up comedy, and a comedian can go up there, tell a joke, might offend some people, but a lot of people think it's funny. So as long as it's funny, I'm good with it. Talking about a video game, Shayna BASZLER would make a bold claim on X, writing, "What if I told you females or not? It doesn't really change much either way. Like, this is such a non-issue. It's weird, nerds give us cool nerds a bad look." Unrelated, Adeptus Sororitas as well as Lotera Saren has always been badass. It never bothered me as a female that can likely whoop most men, you know, and could likely survive the Space Marine process better than you. I got it. Most women would not. Just like most women would not beat up men. There would be more men, but also, who cares? A user replied, "You're tough, I get it, but no, honestly don't think you could beat up most men unless you cheat, and that's not a slight against you or your skill, it still is genetics." BASZLER then said, "As someone who is trained alongside men for a living, respectfully, you're wrong. Also, most men don't train to actually fight at all." When it comes to where WrestleMania 41 will take place, Ringside News wrote that this year's edition of WWE's premiere show, WrestleMania 40, left an indelible mark in WWE history, and anticipation is already building for WrestleMania 41. While the location for next year's extravaganza has yet to be officially confirmed, there have been two frontrunners, Las Vegas and Minneapolis, to host the show. Negotiations with Las Vegas officials are ongoing, causing a delay in the formal announcement of the event's location. Meanwhile, Minneapolis has also thrown its hat into the ring as a contender to host WrestleMania 41. Furthermore, the Undertaker's podcast added fuel to the fire, with him indicating that Las Vegas is the frontrunner for next year's showcase of the Immortals. Now, according to a recent update by WrestleVotes, signs suggest that the likelihood of WrestleMania 41 taking place in Minneapolis is dwindling steadily, with Vegas emerging as the stronger contender. Although this doesn't completely rule out Minnesota as a potential host, the delay in the decision-making process isn't deliberate or part of a new tactic. WWE is purportedly eager to make the announcement promptly, indicating that Las Vegas is gaining traction as the preferred location. After speaking with a reliable WWE source over the weekend, it seems that the chances of WrestleMania 41 being held in Minneapolis are decreasing with each passing day. The longer we wait for an announcement, the stronger Las Vegas looks, said the source. While this doesn't mean Minnesota is out of the running, the delay in announcing isn't part of any new strategy or rollout. WWE is reportedly keen on getting the word out as soon as possible. Sending a warning to fans, Bronson Reed wrote this on X. Sending fan mail to my home address is a big no-no. I will not respond and I will find it an invasion of privacy. My home is for my family. Send fan mail to WWE headquarters or to the Performance Center. Asked if it was always the plan for him to hold the Intercontinental title for a long period, Gunther said this to the gorilla position. No, not really. It was week by week or match by match. And I never got told I was going to hold it for the longest time ever. I don't know if that was initially the plan. When I became the Intercontinental Champion, it was still under Vince McMahon. It wasn't under Triple H. He came in a little bit later and took over. The conversation never really happened. I think over time and how I carried myself as NXT UK champion before, I think I'm the kind of wrestler that is really made for being a champion, if that makes sense. I'm going to represent it well. Speaking about his recent release from WWE and Baron Corbin taking his gimmick, Cameron Grimes told Busted Open Radio, "That's really what I've been trying to wrap my head around as well. You know, I got called up, well really it was August of 2023 is when I believe I was written off of NXT television to head up to the main roster. I started going up to the main roster to SmackDown and going to the shows, but then still I wasn't drafted onto the main roster until 2024. When they did the draft there. So there was probably like a good 6 to 8 months that I was just traveling to the main roster waiting to make that transition. At that time, that's when there was a different person in charge and everything. They just kind of told me that they're waiting to get you started. So when the draft came around last year, that was their point of being like, okay, well, here's a good way to lead you in now because we didn't really have a story for you the past couple of months. I got drafted up. We had the match with Baron Corbin. It was funny because in that moment with Baron Corbin, he literally told me, hey, just so you know, nothing in NXT matters now. That was a quote that will always stick in my head. Nothing in NXT matters now. Up here, everything's new. Then literally 2 weeks later, everything in NXT mattered. You've seen guys getting brought from the NXT show onto our show. Staying on the topic of recent WWE releases, Jinder Mahal had this to say in response to a fan asking about his mindset moving forward.
Gratitude for all of life experiences, but at the same time, positive and optimistic for the future. I've learned that good things in life don't happen with a negative mind frame. So I'm excited for new opportunities, both in and outside of wrestling. I get a chance to be myself. Chance to show something new, chance to grow. So overall, this is a positive. For the past 2 years, I've been pretty stagnant and not really growing as a person or a performer. So I'm viewing this as a very positive change.
For details regarding Drew McIntyre's new WWE deal, Ringside News wrote that according to recent reports, negotiations for McIntyre's contract renewal began in March and concluded recently after extensive discussions. The process involved significant back and forth exchanges indicating a thorough consideration of terms from both parties. Other reports affirmed the conclusion of negotiations just days ago, dispelling earlier suggestions from The Rock's Instagram post hinting at an earlier agreement. Drew McIntyre's new contract spans multiple years, with both parties expressing satisfaction with the finalized terms. It would be added that, according to Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer, McIntyre signed a 3-year contract with WWE, which would keep him there until 2027. He has continued to be pushed as a top guy with WWE, especially after an injury to CM Punk propelled McIntyre back into the world title scene for WrestleMania XL. Meltzer speculates that McIntyre may be making close to $4 million a year, but that is not confirmed. Going over a new signing for AEW, it was said that KAMILLE is all elite. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has learned. KAMILLE has been a free agent since January 1st. She recently stated on Twitter that she has been signed since February, and Fightful Select has learned that the former NWA World Women's Champion is slated to join AEW and is under contract with the company. Touching on the issues with Def Rebel, who makes music for WWE, Ringside News wrote that Def Rebel, WWE's internal music group responsible for producing the company's music since 2019, has faced significant criticism in recent months. The backlash has grown to the extent that the group has become a meme on social media. Many fans have voiced their discontent with Def Rebel's approach to creating entrance music for WWE's superstars, often criticizing it for lacking originality and character. One common complaint is that Def Rebel produced entrance themes often open with a wrestler's catchphrase or signature sound before transitioning into music that fans perceive as generic or uninspiring. This perceived lack of creativity has led to a wave of spoof mixes circulating on social media, where fans parody these themes to highlight the criticism. They have faced considerable criticism recently, with particular focus during the Royal Rumble event. Critics pointed out that even Seth Rollins, who was in attendance but not competing, seemed unsure of which wrestler was heading to the ring due to the indistinct nature of their entrance music. While speaking on Fightful Select's Q&A podcast, Sean Ross Sapp confirmed that WWE is very aware of the backlash directed at Def Rebel. In response to ongoing rumors, WWE clarified that Douglas J. Davis, who was involved with Def Rebel, is no longer affiliated with the group and hasn't been for years. This clarification came after Davis was embroiled in controversy when footage surfaced of him accusing an Uber driver of anti-Semitism. When asked if WWE was aware of the criticism aimed at Def Rebel, Sean Ross Sapp remarked that the company is indeed aware and has been addressing the situation. He shared that after reaching out to WWE about Davis's involvement with Def Rebel, the company quickly stated that Davis was no longer part of the group and hadn't been for some time. They're very aware of them. There was today the thing with Douglas J. Davis and the Uber driver. I reached out to WWE about him because he was originally a part of Def Rebel, and they were quick to say, no, he's not anymore, and he hasn't been for years. Randy Orton also immediately nixed a new theme song for himself, which was produced by Def Rebel as well. Talking about potentially having the 24/7 title being brought back in WWE, R-Truth said this to Steve Fall of 10 Count Media. I don't know, man. The Miz got me on a whole different path right now. Again, this is sports entertainment. It's the professional wrestling business. You never know what you may see. You never know what may happen. Situations are subject to change. Mentioning the prospect of involving his wife, Reby Sky, in his storyline, Matt Hardy said this on his Extreme Life podcast. I'm also going to push the character forward. I'm getting ready to start shooting some vignettes where maybe you see something, and I'm going to lean on Reby a little bit on this too. I think there's also going to be a utilization of some more of my family in it too. Like, that's not out of the question as far as it is going forward. Even Reby said she's ready to wrestle a match, and there might be something there with Eddie Edwards and his wife. We'll see. The whole thing with Broken Matt, I think I'm going to push it forward where I am Matt Hardy. You know, this is me, Matt Hardy, the living legend, the guy who's done it all. The Hardy Boys, one of the greatest tag team members of all time, whatever. He is aware that he is Broken Matt, almost like a Bruce Banner Incredible Hulk thing. I'm going to push the character forward where we're going to get into that, and that makes it a little more clear. Speaking about the possibility of Cody Rhodes turning heel in WWE, The Undertaker noted on his 6 Feet Under podcast, "I don't know that he would switch as a champion, but I don't know what the approach would be there. I think he would be a good heel. He gives me heel vibes. I could see him very easily being smug and better than that. Don't get carried away. That's all it'll work, but I can see it. I feel it in his character. He'll probably have 4 major storylines, I would guess, somewhere in that neighborhood. It just depends. You never know how something's gonna take off. A lot of times you'll go in a direction and then you'll make a quick left turn only to get right back to where you were before, but I think he'll be busy. There's so many people that make sense for him to work with. You got Seth. I mean, that would be one of the first things I would think. You're going to have Gunther. He lost the Intercontinental belt, but that's the sign right there. It's time to move up a level. They had to get that off of him, so it puts him in a different situation. Randy's still sitting there. I mean, there's a whole list. Roman, I think, is probably going to take a little bit of time off, I would guess. That run that he had is really incredible. I think he's going to take some time off, and then no telling where that goes. From what I understand, Brock is not completely out of the picture. There's some hurdles he's got ahead of him to get to 41. It'll be interesting to see his journey. Revealing that Cody Rhodes sent him a message following his title win at WrestleMania 40, The Undertaker said on that same podcast, "He sent me a voicemail the night he won the title. It was 3:49 a.m. I think. I made out about half of it. I believe he was having a good time that night. Well deserved. He has come full circle. I didn't see him developing into being the sports entertainer that he is. Another example of motivation and not being content with where you're at and learning. A lot of guys come into WWE before they are ready and end up leaving unhappy. I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure he left the same way. Man, did he figure things out on both sides, from the marketing aspect, business aspect, to connecting with his audience. He's not the same person as when he left, not even close." Taker also said this about Cody's title reign and how it will be different to the title run of Roman Reigns. He's going to work a lot because he wants to, if that makes sense. So he's not going to be a champion that, no offense to Roman, but Roman didn't have a lot of matches as champion. I think he'll be a working champion. I think he's going to be a workhorse actually. I think he's going to defend the title a lot. He's going to be working to walk out there and show people why he's the world champion. Asked if his WWE run would have been as successful under Vince McMahon, Gunther said this to the Gorilla Position podcast. "I don't know, but it was one of the reasons why, for a long time, I didn't want to go to the US. The product before Triple H was not what I enjoyed. I just didn't want to be a part of that. I am who I am, and that's what I can do best. A big part of that is I need to have my time in the ring and have that time to put on the matches I can put on. That chance would not be there under the old regime. With Triple H, he always saw that in me, and he always had that vision for me. I got lucky that a lot of things in my career took place at the right time. It was a little bit of a leap of faith when I first made the move over. Everything worked out in the end." When it comes to AEW President Tony Khan calling WWE the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, reactions were provided as Brian Alvarez of F4WOnline.com wrote, "I talked to people in both companies, and I will say this about what he said. I can tell you from talking to people in AEW, obviously the WWE people thought it was ridiculous that he said it, but I heard people in AEW saying the same thing, a lot of it. When people in WWE and when people in AEW who have a lot of friends in WWE see Tony accusing the entire company is evil, we are battling an evil company, a lot of people take exception to that. The truth is in the middle. It is not only Vince McMahon, but it is certainly not the entire company." Touching on the match between Bryan Danielson and Will Ospreay at AEW Dynasty, Nikki and Brie Bella said this on their podcast. I watched, and yes, a lot of moments I was like, your neck, I was so scared. Obviously, he walked away healthy from the match. I shouldn't say healthy, he did hurt himself. He did. You always create a headline with that. I think everyone knows he did fall on his neck. He's good, not like anything where he is out of the ring and getting surgery. What did he do? He landed on it a certain way. You wrestle hard, and unfortunately, he's going to be 43 on May 22nd. Your body does things. I saw a lot of people online say the same thing. It's probably one of the best matches in pro wrestling history. I'm just gonna be that cocky. Some are saying in the United States, the best pro wrestling match in the United States, better than any match so far this year. I agree. I think Bryan and Will, their chemistry and story, they are both such stars. It just got you fired up. When I watched the match, I told Bryan I got fired up. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.